Shalom, Kavrim. Good morning. Very warm welcome to all of you all to the Yeshiva in Yeshua's name. I'm sending you all this recording because I wanted to. This is what I'm going to keep doing from this year onwards. I'm going to send you all recordings for each parsha and each weekly shiur. And today we are in parsha Noach. Very, very interesting parsha because Noach epitomizes the new world that God recreated and God replenished. But there's some things I want to touch about in Parsha Noach, which I found very interesting and which I've studied and learned through all the wisdom of the sages and how they've put together many, many thoughts about the flood and God's relationship with Noach and what God was actually trying to do in replenishing the entire earth. So turn with me. We're going to study Parsha Noach, and we are going to see something very, very interesting. I want to talk to you all about the flood in relationship to the ark and the tavel which God asked Noah to create. Okay. In the end of chapter 5 of the book of Genesis, in fact, it is chapter 6, at the end of the first parsha of Bereshit, in the end of the parsha, in fact, in chapter 6, verse 7 onwards, God tells Noach, he says, or the Torah says, I will dissolve man whom I created from upon the face of the earth. Chamaha et hadam asher bir bara'ati me'al pene hadama me'adam ad behama ad rakhash ve'ad of hashemayim ki nachamti ki asitam ve'noach madzachen be'enai Adonai. And then it says that I will destroy everything, man, that I've created from the face of the earth, from man to animal, to creeping things, and to birds of the sky. For I have reconsidered having made them. Then it says, a very important verse, it says, Ve Noach mazachen be'enai Adonai. But, and Noach found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now, it's so easy to misconstrue what the Torah is telling us. Because when the Torah says that Noach found grace in the sight, in the eyes of God, the Torah is not trying to tell us that Noah done things that deserve this grace. It's not telling us that. So don't be under the impression that Noah was a righteous man according to God's sight and this and all that stuff. And the things that he done deserved that he get that grace. Because the Torah says very clearly that I will dissolve man from the face of this earth, and everything that creeps, walks, talks, flies in the air, everything needs to be destroyed. Everything needs to be destroyed. That includes Noah and his family. But then it says, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. What does this mean? It means that God was trying to find a way to save Noah because he had a plan in mind. That's what it means. So listen, whenever grace is involved in your life, it's because God is seeking a path and a way forward for you and me, because he has a plan forward and you need to be the integral part of that plan. So God does not give blanket cover love and salvation and say, okay, I like this person. Therefore, let's say God does not function that way. God functions in a way that is purely functional. That means if God wanted to save creation and the DNA and the fabric of creation, he had to put a plan in place, and because of which he was searching out a person, and then he found Noach, who was a little better than the rest of all the living human beings on the earth at that point of time. He said, okay, this person is a much better and is better than the rest of his generation. Therefore, I found a way now to put my plan forward. So, therefore, the grace of God always comes with a plan, a season, and a course in one's life. So, therefore, the right way to look at it is not that God looked at the earth and said, the earth is bad, let's destroy it, but Noah is the most righteous person, let's save him. That's not what the Torah is saying. The Torah is saying is that God had to find a way, saying, Noah, how do I save you? What do I do? Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Because of this, you can even save creation, you can do that, you can save the fabric, the DNA of all living things. And this is the plan which I'm giving you, and make sure you complete the plan. So that's the true meaning of this verse which says, "Ve Noach matzachen be'enai Adonai." Okay, so when God decided that, okay, Noah, I extend my grace to Noah, not because Noah deserves to live. Noah also deserves to die, like the rest of creation, like the rest of everything else. But I extend my grace to you. Now, Noah, listen to me. This is what we're going to do. Because I need you to be integral to this plan to save the DNA and fabric of creation. Let's do this together. Then in Parsha Noah, so finally come to Parsha Noah, which starts in verse 8 onwards. It says, and these are the offspring of Noah, and Noah was a righteous man, perfect. Before God deems Noah righteous, the Torah says, the author of the book of Genesis says, these are the offspring of Noah, ve'ele toldot Noach, Noach ish sadiq, tamim haya bedorotav et ha-Elohim v'halachach Noah. And Noah walked with I'm sorry, and Noah walked with God. So before God says that Noah is righteous, the Torah says, and Noah was a righteous man. He was a Ish Sadiq, and he walked with God. And then later on, God says, for Noah, I found you righteous in your generation. Therefore, I am going to carry out this plan with you. Great. Then we all come to this verse, which we've been talking about. I think the full world is talking about today. And the earth had become corrupt, it says, right? ותשחט הארץ לפני האלוהים ותמלא הארץ חמאס. And the full world was filled with this, with robbery, Hamas. Okay, so Hamas can be interpreted as robbery, it can be interpreted as violence, it can be interpreted by many connotations and many different synonyms. But I've done this before many a time, and the full world is talking about violence and robbery. Just to give you an insight into this, let's look at what robbery is first. Okay, I'm going to write something down for you all. Okay, so there are three different words that denote some type of robbery or thieving in the Bible. The first word is ganav. The second word is gizel. And the third one is Hamas. Okay, three different words. Ganav, we know that Ganav means a petty thief. So a petty thief that can, just rob you for 5 rupees or a 10 rupees or a 20 rupees or maybe 100 rupees, right? And The man has a conscience. He's probably doing this out of need, a hungry stomach, or a dependency of some kind. And the ganav is quiet, he's stealth, he comes in the middle of the night, he robs you and goes, doesn't want to be caught. Even if he is caught, he shakes and he trembles. You can give him 2 slaps and he promises he'll never do it again. Man has a conscience and he can be rectified depending on his situation. That's what a ganav is. A gazelle is a different level of thief. So this is a person who's lost all conscience. He's open about being a thief. He tells you, yes, I'm a thief and I cannot do anything about it. Neither can you. If I want to rob you, I'll rob you. I have no qualms about it. This person has the option of using violence compared to a ganav. He has the option of being violent when push comes to shove. So if he can rob you without violence, is good. If he finds resistance, he can use violence. This is what you would call burglary, armed robbery, assault. This is what gazelle is all about. It can be deadly violence too. But the baseline is still robbery. The third level is khamas. Khamas is a deadly mix of robbery, thieving, lying, deceit, everything put together, and also which uses the law of the land to protect its actions. That's what khamas is. Therefore, khamas is very, very dangerous. So a person can rob you, thief from you, okay, assault you, and yet be protected by certain conditions of the law. Now, what is the effect of this? What is the effect of this? What's the effect of khamas? If somebody uses khamas against me, and I cannot do anything about it because he's protected by the law, by whatever reason, I'm going to build sin inside of me, anger, distrust, uh, bitterness, and it's going to grieve. And so, like me, there are other people also who are going to experience this khamas, and that broods violence and all forms. And we see this very rampant in the world today because you have parties that are violating others and transgressing others, and the law steps in and says, okay, you can't do this and you can't do this, you have to stop this and you have to stop this. But what happens that khamas grows until there is a violent outburst, uncontrollable, and humanity loses all senses of who they are and they become animalistic in behavior. And that's how we see the war in the Middle East today, and that's how it builds up. So Hamas is a more deadly mix, it's a more structured mix. Hamas uses the law on its behalf to perpetrate crimes against humanity and nature and creation, and that's what Hamas is. Now, what I want to share with you all today is we've kind of understood uh, what Hamas is, but the underlining, the foundation of all these three is a thing called robbery. That's why the Hebrew Bible chooses to translate Hamas as robbery, not really violence. Uh, Robbery. Why? It's because that the baseline and foundation of everything is thieving. What do we mean by this? And even the sages of Israel have come to this conclusion that uh, robbery is the highest level of transgression. It's the mother, it's the father, it's the grandfather of all transgression. Why? Because, let me explain this to you. Why they say this is that God has given you time. When you misuse time, you're robbing God of time that's given to you, of which God has created, and you're robbing it from Him, and you're misusing it for your own deeds. That is equated to robbery. God has given you wealth, you're doing the same thing. God has given you health and life, and you're violating it. You're robbing God in many ways of what God has given us and what God has. So everything that we do in life, if we misuse it, it's a form of khamas and robbery in the sight of God. And that's the foundation of Hamas, and that's why the Bible translates Hamas as robbery. Okay, so let's move on now. And then God instructs Noah. Okay, he instructs Noah. He says, the end of all flesh has come before me, including Noah. Including Noah. There is no exception out here. I want you to understand this. For the earth is filled with Hamas through them, and behold, I'm about to destroy them from the earth. Then he says, Vasalechat tevet azai nofar kanim taseet hateva ukaparta utham bait umechutz bakoper. And make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make the ark with compartments and lay and coat it inside and out with pitch or with tar. This is how you should make it. Now, I want you all to understand. I'm going to use a little gematria here, which I've studied and I've learned from the sages and which I've picked up from the sages. And in fact, this is a very high level of interpretation of scripture. It's on a very mystical level of studies of the Torah. Okay, but I'm sharing it with you all today so that you'll understand what's happening in the back, technicalities of what God is actually doing. Now, before I go ahead, I want you all to know that there is a balance of everything in creation. And the great balance between good and evil in this world is perpetually and constantly being maintained by God Himself. It's been maintained by God Himself. How does He maintain this? Because God involves His very attributes, His nature in parts of creation, and that forms a fence and a block for the advancement of evil, darkness, good and bad. It's constantly being balanced out. And I've studied this and I've told you all this, that every year God balances out the acts and the deeds of creation, and He balances out the good and evil on Rosh Hashanah, and He creates equilibrium, because of which we are able to live for another year. Now, this great balance is very, very important, because we're going to see this from a gematria point of view. We're going to see this from a Torah point of view. So let's read now. Okay, I need to tell you this because when we study the gematria, we're going to understand this balance a little more better. Okay, then it says, Vazeh asher ta'aseh otha othe shlish me'ot ema orech hatavet hashemayim ema rahava ushaloshim ema komamta. This is how you shall make it: 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits in height. And you will make one property of this ark, one, which is a light and a window on the top of the ark to a cubit, finish it from above. So he's saying that the entire ark will taper into 1 cubit on the top. 1 cubit. So you have 300 ema or 300 cubits, if you want to call it, in length, 50 cubits in breadth, 30 cubits high, tapering to 1 cubit on top. So we have 300, 50, 30, and 1. Okay, so let's put this into perspective. What are these gematria values, and what does this tell us? Right? The Torah is so full of mathematics and so full of gematria that it's unbelievable how we can put all this and understand the Torah in this way. Okay, let's go. First, let's draw something that looks like an arc, and I hope I can. Okay, if I have to draw something, like an arc, this will be 300 this will be 50, and this will be 30, and the full thing will probably taper on the top to some extent to 1. Okay, 1. So we have 300, we have 50, we have 30. And another important thing is that you'll have 3 compartments, 1, 2, and 3. And these 3 compartments also we will going to look at in a certain way altogether. Okay, so let's deal with the 3 compartments. If I have to put 3 compartments into 3 in gematria is equal to Gimel. Okay, and Gimel from his way we get Gemilut Kasdim. Okay, or the word Chesed, right, which is connected to Chesed, which is loving kindness. Okay, so out of God's loving kindness, of his attribute, out of his nature, we see that God saved the very fabric and DNA of creation because it's his loving kindness. Okay, so we're done with the 3 levels of the ark, and that's with Gemilut Kasdim. Okay, now let's talk about the dimensions of the ark. What exactly are these dimensions, and how do I put this into perspective? Very interesting. If I have to put 300, 30, 50, and 1, what are these consonants? 300 is Shin, 30 is Lamed, 50 is Nun, right? And 1 is Aleph. Very, very interesting. Okay, so let's do a little fill in the gaps. But before we do fill in the gaps out here, what are the missing consonants that can make up a word out of all of this? Okay, now if I look at the Torah and if I look at the Bible, and if I look at evil primarily, what is the source of evil in the Bible? At least what we know and we read about. We can conclusively come to 2 points of evil in the Bible. One is we can affix and we can by certain say that the evil one, or the source of evil, is this personality called Hasatan. Okay, Satan, which is mentioned in the Torah and the Bible, and his agent called the serpent. So the serpent is the one that produces the evil in all of creation, but the source and its master is this personality called Satan. So we are down to 2. What are the names in the Bible of these 2? Satan is known by many names. Okay, Satan is also known by the name Samael. Okay, Samael, and the serpent is called Nachash. Correct? Nachash. Very, very interesting. Okay, so one of the most beautiful things about the Hebrew language is that words in themselves, when you really have to syllabalize words in the Hebrew, those who have studied the Hebrew with us will understand syllabalification, and this is what we teach at the yeshiva, what syllabalification is. We realize that words in itself have such depth and tremendous power of revelation in itself. So if I look at these words, in fact, most Hebrew words have this balance within themselves. Now, what do I mean with this balance? That means it has a balancing characteristic built within each word. Let's look at the balancing characteristic within each word. Here in Nachash, which is serpent basically, okay, the word Nachash is serpent. Chet, the middle word, okay, is the word for khatat or sin. Khat is the consonant that gives you the whole complete comprehensive word called sin, khatat, khata. That's the word for sin. And it's embedded into this word nakhash. So if nakhash, serpent, okay, is embedded with sin, what are its balancing features of this word? You have the nun and the shin, which is the word sheen, which is fire. Fire is what balances the serpent out in his endeavor, or the serpent uses fire. What the fiery serpents we read in the book of Exodus, right? Or book of Numbers. The fiery serpent, and fire's also got to do with the serpent and all that stuff. But embedded within the serpent are two balancing factors. One is sin, and the other is fire. So this word balances itself out in these ways. What about Samael, which is the original heavenly name of this personality, which can also be called Hasatan, who's the master of this agent called Nachash. Samael also, now we know El is the name of God, who is the balancing factor of Sam, which is poison in Hebrew. The word Sam is poison. Okay, it's Zuhamma, basically Zuhamma, contamination and poison. And that is balanced out with God himself. So God and his fire balances out the poison of sin. Okay. So built within the Hebrew words and the structure, there is always this good evil balancing out thing which is happening all together. But if I look very carefully, that if I remove the dimensions of the ark from these two names, okay, let's remove it, because Lamed is here, remove it out. Aleph is here, I remove it out. Okay, Shin is here, I remove it out. And Nun is here, I remove it out. And what am I left with? I'm left with this word called Hamas. I'm left with this Hamas if I remove the dimensions out of the ark, out of these two names, which is absolutely amazing, friends. So, built within the entire episode of the ark, now God gives Noach these dimensions, which has an extrapolating effect on creation. Let me explain this to you. The balance of good and evil on the earth was getting broken and getting pushed and pushed and pushed by evil and gaining more ground than the good. Therefore, what did God do? He withdrew the good from this world. Okay, he withdrew, contracted his presence and the goodness of this world by way of the ark. That's why he gave the dimensions of and he put Noach and his family inside, and he said, you withdraw and you contract yourself, and he withdrew all the goodness into the world, into this ark. And he told Noah, come into the ark with me. Come, Noah, enter into the ark. He didn't say go into the ark. He said, come, Bo, come. And he withdrew all the goodness of this world, and the forces of evil took over the world. So the balance of evil and good and evil was completely out of proportion, and evil overtook everything, or the destructive force of the world, the Zuhama, the entropy of this world of physical creation completely took over and destroyed everything. Now, this should be a great lesson in our minds, because when we look at this world and we're constantly seeing so much of bad happening all the time, right? This violence, this robbery, this rape, this killing, this massacre, this thieving, There is derision, scorn, you just name it. I mean, if you can open out each day your newspaper, wherever and whichever part of the world you're in, and you're looking at this world and you're saying, oh Lord, look at this. The full papers full of wars, rumors of wars, thieving, robbing, cybercrime, this crime, rape, accidents. It's impossible even to read a newspaper today. Where are the good things in the newspaper? There's nothing good, does not sell. If you have a newspaper that tells you all the good things, no one's going to buy it. Everybody buys a newspaper because they want to see who died today, who went to war, what was the crime today, what's the news, what's the stock market. The stock market fell. How much of money did I lose? How much of the money did I win? Oh my Lord, there is no audience for good news, and we're dealing with this. So when you look at the world today, do we have a sense of innate balance as to understand, okay, now the scales are tipping in the wrong way? And if you ask me, I want to tell you for sure, yes, the scales of violence and evil is tipping much more than what it used to be. We're approaching that point of no return. We are definitely approaching the point of no return. And I think this is exactly what Yeshua said in the book of Luke. He says, as it was in the days of Noach, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. In other words, Yeshua predicted that the days when the end comes, we're going to reach that threshold where God is going to decide that I'm going to again remove this balancing barrier of good and withdraw it like he did in the days of Noah. He's going to withdraw it. How is he going to contract it? I don't know. What is he going to use? That time he used a ark, a tevet. What is he going to use now? I don't know. Maybe the Torah, the Bible tells us about it. I don't have any idea about it. But it's going to be the same thing all over and over again. Very, very interesting. So this balance of good and evil, now we have to have a very innate understanding in our environment, firstly, in the times that we're living in. Are we approaching that threshold? Yes. Have we reached that threshold? Maybe not. How bad is it? How bad is it for me today? And how bad is it for the generation coming ahead? It's really bad. Okay. Do I need to really separate from this world today more so than what I did yesterday? The answer is yes. We have to. It's imperative, it's necessary that we have to separate ourselves. Very, very important. And in many ways, what Hashem said to Noach also resonates today. He says, make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make the ark with compartments and use it. And kapar, the word kapar, from where we get the word kippur, atonement, same word. Pitch it, plaster it, paint it with pitch and with tar. So essentially that we need the kippurim, we need that atonement. So our congregations, a tevet and ark that we are supposed to create. We all go to our congregations and we worship God there, right? Every Sunday or Saturday or whenever we can. Are those the ark, or there is going to be something else? I don't know. What is going to be the level of destruction? We don't know. The Bible only hints at us and tells us that this is what's going to happen in the end. But my point is, externally, we have to be aware. We have to be full of zehirut and be aware of our environment. That's the external kiziniyut, the external factor. What about the penimiyut? What about the internal factor in each one of us? Penimiut, the inner man. Rav Shaul talks about the outer man and the inner man. So we understood about the outer man. The Pinimiut, the inner man now. What is my compass direction that balances out this, the Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination, and the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination inside each one of us? Am I the master of the evil inclination? Because we read in chapter 4 of Genesis, when Cain killed Havel, what does God tell Cain? He says, Cain, he says, what have you done? Your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. And why is your face fallen? If you do good, your face will be up. But if you do bad, your face will fall as it is falling today before me. And sin, Zohama, contamination, is waiting at the door to enter and to overpower you. Nevertheless, you must be its master. So, all our lives, we have this obligation, each one of us, that we really have to learn to master our evil inclination. Because if we don't master our evil inclination, we're going to run rampage inside of us. We're going to be completely imbalanced inside of us. Is my evil inclinations reaching the tipping point inside of me? I believe most of us are on the threshold. The day it tips, God takes us out of the equation. Now I'm talking about an inner evaluation of each human being, not the outer. To reclaim back, to retract and come back and start tipping the scales of Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination in each one of us. That is the primary motive, the primary goal, the cause that we all live for. We take from God and we use it correctly, because if you misuse it, as I said earlier on in the shiur, it's termed as robbery, and you're indulging in kamas in the sight of God, and that is going to bring a judgment. And when the judgment happens, know for sure that you've overreached over the threshold and you've tipped over and you're out of the equation now, and God is taking you out of this world. Therefore, we see many people die early, bad things happen, accidents, become crippled, problems, and a whole lot of things happen because when the evil inclination inside of each one of us jumps, goes over the threshold, that defining point is over. God removes, He contracts His goodness by way of the ark, okay, and evil and Zohama takes over, and we get destroyed from inside out. So, my friends, I want you all to understand that in each Torah portion, there are so many things that are happening out here. There was a prophecy in Noah's life, right? His father Lamech, what does he say? That when Noah is born, he says, "For this one will comfort us." Right? He says this, "For this one will comfort us." What does he mean by that? He means that Noah signifies a generational shift in the historical context of humanity. Until Noach, the generations that lived before him, okay, lived under the level of a cursed land. That curse was lifted because of the flood. The land was cursed. So the aspirational hopes of all human beings till the time of Noah, that they would be able to bring themselves comfort. Comfort in what? How does a person use or apply himself to bring comfort? How does one make himself and make his life more easy? Technology. I don't have to physically use labor to pull a plow. Come on, if I can do that, even one second, even a cow can do that. Come here, cow, harness him, pull it. Comfort. I'm using my mind, I'm using my wisdom, I'm using understanding. I'm applying some sort of technology. Why? Because laws of physics, dynamics. How do I make a plow? Okay, this plow now can plow only one at a time. If I plan the plow to dig four gullies at a time, great. Now I don't, so the same effort, instead of plowing one gully, I can plow four at a time. That's technology. And then I improve on that, and improve on that, improve on that. And that brings some other technology into play. That improves my mind, that improves somebody's mind who's curious and who's always investigating and who's always inventing. And then from that simple plow, technological advance has improved. And by the time it comes to Noah, who's 500 years, I think it was 500 years when he started building the ark, and he finished the ark in 100 years, he was 600 years. It took 500 years, Noah, to bring comfort to humanity because he symbolizes a cursed land who's now improving their quality of life in science, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and learning to smelt iron and make uh, arms and make plows and build houses and chisel stones and the works. The man is living in a deprived condition, but he's in comfort because he's able to ease that comfort, ease that pain and that curse by way of technology. That's great. So Noah symbolizes a generation also that is decrepit, fallen, full of Yetzer Hara, evil inclination, running towards sin and destruction, but they're compensating everything by way of technology, making life simple today. See, look at our life simple today, right? We got technology in a blink of an eye. Everything's your mobile phone, cloud computing, computers, go to bank transaction, ATM cards, OTP pins. Just name it. Technology is making life so comfortable for all of us, isn't it? But it's a compensation for the decrepit state humanity is in. Humanity has never been more dumb, more uneducated, more irrational, more violent than what humanity has been in the years and centuries gone by than what it is today. Take our own examples. There was a time in the 80s and 90s, I could remember people's phone numbers, I could remember people's date of births, I remember this, I could remember so many things. But today, I've got a smartphone that is making me unsmart. I probably got a calendar there. I got, those reminders that, oh, today's this one's birthday, wish him. Oh yeah, my mind is gone. It's completely. Basically, I'm like a headless and chickenless goat. Headless goat, decapitated in terms of knowledge, and because the mind is shriveled, it's become, when an organ in the body dies and becomes useless, it shrivels out, right? This is what our minds have become. Why? Because we represent a generation of Noach, and Yeshua rightly says it. As it was, as it is, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of coming of the Son of Man. And we're heading out there. And we people who travel all over the world, they tell me stories of each city they've been in. Go to Europe, it's horrible. There is no safety, violence, drugs openly on the road, prostitution on the road. You can't walk in major cities in Europe flashy. You'll be robbed, spanked, whacked, cut open, thrown in the gutter. Same is it in cities in US, in the Nordic countries, parts of Europe. Terrible. We are so much more better in a country like India. So much more better because we've not reached it. It's going to take us, I'm telling you, in India, it's going to take us another probably 20 years, and we are going to reach where Europe is today. Surely we will reach there. And considering our population, it's going to be 100 times worse than what Europe is today. And I'm saying get ready for those times. Please tell your children, this is what we are going to look at. Prepare them for all of this. The violence, the robbery, the thieving, the wickedness, it's all going to be a rampant world over, my friends. World over, my friends. I know when that tipping point comes, there will be a contraction of goodness. It'll all be contracted like what God got done with the ark, and he contracted all the goodness into 100, 50, 30, and 1. And that 1 is that, I forgot to tell you, right? 300 was the length, 50 was the breadth, 30 was the height, and the 1 on top was that one window, one amut window that God said open to skylight. That's the Aleph. God's divine light and energy can penetrate through. His grace and kindness can penetrate through. So God withdrew all the goodness of creation into the ark, into those numerical values. What did he leave behind? He left behind Hamas. That is the fundamental point of the story which I'm telling you today, friends. Okay, so I hope you all have been able to grasp many things. Now, a lot of people are not studying the Hebrew with us. They don't understand gematria. They don't understand how to use these things. But those who have studied are able to understand how we are, what I'm trying to tell you. I urge all of you also, those who want to learn, please come to us, visit our site. Okay, yeshivaindia.in, it's on the screen. Please visit our site, become a member, come and take courses with us, come learn the Hebrew language, understand the seasons and the times that we're living in. It's very, very important, friends. Till we meet next time, Shalom, God bless, Yom Tov, have a wonderful week going ahead. Please pray for Israel. We are in a very, very difficult time. Don't think what's happening in the Middle East is not going to affect us. It is already affecting us. We don't know about it, but it's going to happen. The effect is going to filter down to us very, very soon. Okay. God bless. I see you next time. Shalom from Yeshiva India. Yeah, this is Mori Mark. God bless.